What is going on, everybody? We are back once again with another edition of Wrestling Republic's daily broadcast. It is Thursday, June 27th. Believe it or not, we're like halfway there. We're living on a prayer. This year has flown by. Dynamite last night headed into Forbidden Door, and it's also a Thursday, so you know what that means. Throwback on deck. Absolutely today. I've got the usual suspects riding with me this afternoon, evening, maybe even morning, depending on where you're at geographically. I'm no geographer, but I will send this one out to Philadelphia to our head of opinions, Anthony Ricciardi. What's up? How are you on this Thursday?
Doing all right. You're not a mathematician either, so we're adding that to the list. I'm doing all right. A Dynamite that the one consistency AEW has shown, they don't know how to do a go home show, but we'll cover that. And probably one of the most iconic matches in the past 30 years in our throwback topic.
Absolutely. I'm stoked to get into it. And of course, it isn't Tuesday. But geographically in the DMV, you go ahead and Google that yourself if you want to figure out where that is. But the twos need to be thrown up for Shoddy. What's good? How are you?
Throw them twos up in the air if you just don't care. DMV, for those who are in the comments and don't know what that is, that's the DMV. That is the DC metro area, DC, Maryland, Northern Virginia. I live in Northern Virginia, the best part of Virginia. Sorry, Adam Hangman Page. Your part of Virginia sucks. Let's get into the show, though.
I am actually really stoked you cleared that up because I didn't want anyone to get it twisted that you literally lived at the Department of Motor Vehicles. That
Yeah.
that made me nervous for a second. Don't make that mistake, guys. Two different things. Same acronym, different subjects.
So,
Let's talk though about our opening subject of the night. Tony Khan, AEW announce Daniel Garcia will appear or speak. I'm not really sure exactly how they phrased it, but either way, we knew in advance. We got it early and we got it often. Did not expect him to be on the other side of an MJF promo. And then we end up with a bad Billy Goat appearance, as well as the world champion by the end of this whole shenanigan ridden. I liked it, didn't love it, don't have a ton to say about it because I'm just kind of unsure. I'm hoping this is one of those ones where we get some dots connected later and we're a little bit like, oh, it makes sense now. Like, I think I just must have missed something. Anthony, is there anything that we missed? Do you think there's got to be? There's definitely a way to recover, even if we didn't miss anything. But can you possibly think of one thing?
I think they overbooked it. I think it was a tease for MJF Ospreay. That's where they're going with this. Garcia being in there really made no sense whatsoever. The fact that Ospreay tried to one up MJF on who gets to fight Garcia first. Why? Garcia is not a champion. He's not a legend. It made no sense. It was overbooked. And who's going to pay the price? Garcia. Because realistically, either A, he's going to lose to Ospreay, which is probably likely unless MJF costs him. And even if MJF cost Ospreay the title, doesn't that kind of cheapen Garcia's win at that point? If you're trying to build Garcia up, Swerve again is the champion that they don't treat him like the champion. I mean, towards the end of the night, the final thing, which we'll get to, that they did. But as a whole, this was just kind of a mix of different people and different parts and hoping something that sticks. Like, I know where they're ultimately MJF Ospreay is probably where they're going with this. But personally, I haven't enjoyed MJF's return so far. I think a lot of it is he doesn't feel like he has direction. He's thrown into this matchup because it's Forbidden Door, so he needs an opponent from outside the company. But there's no real heat there. It's a one-off match, like it was an indie show. So there's no real heat there. Garcia just kind of got thrown into this thing of going, hey, look, he's still here. I don't know where they're going with this, and the sad part is I don't think they do either. Other than the MJF Ospreay thing, like I said, I don't think they have any idea what they want to do.
I see. I hear you, but I do think there's going to be some dots connected in a weird way. To me, this felt like a killing time segment for the sake of story, and it's not perfect. It wasn't well executed. There's a better way to go about this. But I thought about this, and there's two parts of this.
Mhm.
One that I hope is what happens,
Mhm.
and the other is what I hope doesn't happen.
Mhm.
But what I hope doesn't happen hinges on what I hope happens. And what I hope happens is Swerve puts on an absolute all-time classic against Ospreay,
Mhm.
and the finish is Swerve going over, and
Mhm.
we're kind of like, ooh, actually, he really looked like the world champ that night.
I agree
And
with
it
you. I hope
finishes
that's
the
what happens.
show.
Mhm.
What I hope doesn't happen is everyone goes, well, they can't just rely on great wrestling matches.
Uh,
It's like, well, that's
the-
part of Ospreay's, and I don't want to say gimmick, but that's
yeah.
part of Ospreay's character. Is he just puts on great wrestling matches? Yes, we praise his promo ability,
Mhm.
but character-wise, if we're
Mhm.
inside a kayfabe, Ospreay's whole gimmick is he's just the guy that goes out and
Yeah.
puts on a classic.
Puts on star matches. The only other major negative I had with
Bruv.
was this. It's a go home show. That segment should hype me up for the pay-per-view. It didn't, and when you're coming out of a week having record low ratings,
Yeah,
to me, that first segment should be lighting the world on fire.
right.
That was not it.
It was tough because especially when you send Max out there and it doesn't land
Mhm.
100%, it does make things more difficult. I don't think it's the end of the world, but I do hear you that it was definitely a swing and a miss when it
Yes.
comes to an opening segment. Shad, I got to get your thoughts on it. Can you pick out any positives? Can you see some sort of direction? Did you maybe see something like, I don't know, like I guess like under the radar that we may have missed, like something subtle?
I I think
Positive?
I think there's a, well, see, the thing is this. I was it was a roller coaster, and it started off super slow, and it picked up a little bit, and I think it finished off well. And it kind of goes back to last week. Their next go-to match, whether it be All In, whether it be All Out, in my opinion, is going to be Will Ospreay versus MJF. Now, how we get there and what are the stakes for it is going to be a whole different story, and we got to let these, couple months, month and a half play out and see what happens. Because Ospreay obviously has a match with Swerve. He has a match with Garcia next week as well. Will he have both titles when he goes against MJF? Will he have one title? Will he be just the AEW champ, or will he be just the international champ versus MJF going down to which I believe is going to maybe be the All In match or maybe the All Out match? I'm not sure, but I think that's the big money feud, and it's kind of just a little bit of what the overarching story of Osprey is. He is just, he's on a honeymoon right now, right? He's loving being in AW. He loves the competition. He wants to wrestle the best in the world. And that could be his Achilles heel. He's putting a little too much dip on his chip where one of these matches is not going to roll his way and he's going to lose. He might lose both matches. We don't know. I think that would be a compelling story, to be honest with you. Losing the Swerve, then going to lose the Garcia, and then going all and MJF feuding with him and kind of getting under his skin like that. That's how I would put it pen to paper. I'd have Osprey go on which was a complete big winning streak and being on top of the world, get knocked down a peg. Being on his high horse and getting knocked off of it, and having MJF as an ultimate heel, just taking digs at him and making him feel completely bad about the whole situation, and that being a blood feud because I think that's the perfect opponent for Osprey to reach that next level of superstar that we see in him. Because I think the promo ability is there. He's been very, very good in this whole Swerve storyline, and we'll talk about that later. But to the start though, um, this goes back to what I even said at Clash at the Castle. Uh, we can't be prisoner of the moments of giving people their hometown moment, because sometimes it's not gonna matter. and that was the case last night. I know we love Daniel Garcia. That's the Buffalo Kid. He wasn't cutting no promo that was drawing us in and having the crowd, off their seats. That's not his forte. You know what I'm saying? Like he's a guy who does his work in the ring, and you're trying to course correct, but it comes off so boring, man. It was such a drawn out promo exchange between him and MJF. I didn't like any of it between those guys. Like I
Yeah.
get it. You give the young man his moment. It's cool. The Buffalo Kid, whatever it may be, but it dragged out so much, and it worries me because I think he's talented, and I think him having the international title was good for him because that's a workers title. But let's not like let's not try to like put his character as something that's not comfortable to what he is. Like let's not try to make him some rah rah babyface that's cutting like passionate promos because he can't do that. You're gonna get crickets week upon week. It's not even gonna be. You know what's worse than booze and what chance? No noise, and that's what may happen for him. So that's my fear in regards to what the direction is for Daniel Garcia. And I like Daniel Garcia. I think he's talented. But I don't think they wrote a good opening promo last night and ties to all of it. And until Ospreay came in at the end, I had zero interest of it.
I totally hear you, and I you really really did break that down in a way that I think makes a ton of sense. And going toe to toe with MJF on the mic is difficult for anyone over an entire program, but it's kind of a litmus test. Now, I will say I can't lie to you guys. I'm completely thrown off because I did just see that LeBron James Jr., aka Bronny
Bronny
James,
is
was
like,
drafted by the
yeah.
Lakers. And I'm just, as a SoCal based non Laker fan, laughing as hard as anyone can be laughing when it comes to that decision. But yeah, this is an interesting deal
Hey
because
man, look at it, man. Shad Khan helped his little baby boy out.
yeah,
LeBron helping his little baby boy out.
very much, very much. There's a lot of, yeah, we can make a lot of analogies with that one. But let's think about this world title picture because that's the tough part is it feels like a wave of
Mhm.
negativity where it's like, oh, the Swerve reign, not as good. And then it's like, on top of that, well, they're trying to push Ospreay. Max returns. It's like, it feels like I don't want to say a comedy of errors, but it's like in it, because I don't think there were intentional errors. It's the worst timing. You have Edge break his leg. You have, right, like the amount of bad
It,
luck over the last few months.
I mean,
In the reassessment, I would assume has had to be done. I think we've been too harsh on Swerve. I think we've been too positive about other aspects of this show.
I don't blame Swerve with this. It's the booking. It's 100% the booking on how they've booked him as champion. Because when Swerve's got the mic, he's delivering. But the problem is, it's very evident that Swerve is his days are numbered. Like Tony's already planning
As champ?
the next. Yes,
That's what it feels like. But if he goes out and gets a big old W on Sunday night against Will Ospreay, then what?
I,
And
I think
that's
they're
what
I
I'm
think they're
hoping.
I think they're course correcting it a little bit, and my
Yeah.
my my hope is this. Like I said earlier, I think MJF is the variable to get Osprey away from Swerve's title for a little bit. Um, and it's dicey, man, and like it's so hard to. The thing is this: all three of them are kind of like guys who shouldn't be being taking any L's in any feud because all
yes.
three of them. Those are your honestly, those are your
They're
three
the
top
pillars.
guys at the
That's your
moment right
pillars.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and having them all intertwined in the feud now makes it very, very difficult to you book yourself in a corner because
Yeah.
you're like, oh, I don't know what to
Where,
do.
where,
Who's
where
gonna
you put
win?
where you putting the pieces? And maybe it's
Yeah,
just me. I don't feel the same buzz with Max since his return. Like it's something just feels off. It doesn't feel like the
yeah. He
Max.
hasn't he hasn't had a compelling feud yet, and
Well,
that's the
on the mic too. It's nothing really like lighting the world on fire.
Ooh, I thought the one that people were pretty harsh on was pretty dang good. The tattoo one, the return promo.
That was his best one, but as a whole, it still didn't hold the candle to previous ones he's done. I don't
Yeah,
think.
maybe he's in his head. Who knows? I'm kidding. I can't say that about Max.
I
Please,
mean, they got
please, Max,
he's
if you see that, make fun of me
well,
and tell me I'm
well,
wrong
well.
because I
One thing before we get to the next topic. And to your point, Anthony, he's cutting promos versus guys who don't cut promos. Like Roosh,
They're
there's a
beneath
language
them. Yes.
barrier there.
Yeah.
Garcia is not a strong promo.
Hmm.
Like you put Max in the level to cut a promo on them, you can really, really like you're dunking on someone with no badges to my NBA 2K fans. Like
Oh,
yeah.
it can
absolutely.
get really bad for those talent. I just didn't like him like kissing Daniel Garcia's ass last night. Like I thought it was so cheesy and corny. Like I didn't love this little like this positivity powwow they had last night.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It's not. Like I said, he doesn't. I don't feel
Pardon
he
my
has a
French, by the
direction
way.
right now.
Okay. Well, for the next topic, we've got a multi-person match, which we all know Ben cannot stand these type of matches. And not only that, it ends in a DQ, which makes it even more non-Ben friendly. Bless you, Ben, if you're watching this. I know that had to be a tough watch for you, but I actually enjoyed it personally. I didn't mind it. I think it's fun every now and again when we're doing stuff like this. We got Los Ingobernables de Japan or de Japón technically, but if we're really trying to get it right, against the Blackpool Combat Club, it's a lot of really, really high quality wrestlers in the ring that you never get to see. And so to sit here and make fun of this match, I think is kind of unfair. Like you have
Don't
you
pass
have
me the topic.
you have different talent. I don't hate it. Shad, how much did you hate it?
I didn't hate the match. I hate the finish. Like, what's the point of
Finish was terrible.
what was the point of what's wrong with you, Moxley? Like, what's going on at home, bro? The kids driving you that crazy? What made you get that steel chair out, man? Renee gonna need to talk to him. I did not get the finish at all. It just became super chaotic at that point, and it's one of those points where like the match was well wrestled, like you said. I mean, you got the Blackpool Combat Club, which has three premier wrestlers, and then you got Lij that has a lot of talented international wrestlers, and a lot of this is also coinciding in like building to the Forbidden Door match with Danielson going into Sunday, and it's one of those things where like they kind of just overbooked it way too much at the end where I'm just like, what is going on right now? Like this is a lot. I did like the ending though with Shingo, just going to town and beating up Wheeler Yuta. Wheeler Yuta getting beat up is always good in my books. That guy deserves to get beat up some more by more competition if they allow it to happen. And but it continues to feud with Danielson and Shingo, which is gonna be entertaining and is good for the Forbidden Door aspect of it. My fear is this, and I think me and Anthony even talked about it last night too. The direction of the BCC is starting to become very, very stale, and it's one of those cases where I feel like they have maybe the stay has just been a little too long at this point. Because you think about it, Moxley's Moxley. Moxley's gonna be able to do whatever he does. Same with Danielson. I feel like they're better off being single stars and doing what they were supposed to do. The key of it was supposed to build up Claudio and build up Wheeler Yuta, and it did that in the beginning. And I think it really helped Wheeler Yuta kind of establish himself as a name in AEW. But now it's a case where I don't know if it really does a lot for either guy. Where now it's just seeing those guys stuck in the mud, and I would rather kind of see them, fly off, get their wings and fly off, and be able to do something else. Claudio's a guy who's super talented when given when the chance. I don't like seeing him being the fall guy, taking losses. We know, like he's a person that could be built up right and be a guy in the title picture. Wheeler Yuta, same case. I mean, he's like a guy like a Daniel Garcia, super talented in ring wise. You let him work, you let him build. I think BCC might need to break up, and I think it'd be beneficial for the whole team as a whole because I don't. You're gonna kind of you're rinse and repeat these storylines with them all the time, and I think fans are starting to kind of get a little, bored of it.
I hear you on that. It makes sense to me, and I mean, hey, look, Forbidden Doors Sunday. So I feel like we hopefully should be past it, right? And be able to move back on to focusing on the roster itself. If
Yeah.
right, if that's the grandest complaint, I get it, but like the Forbidden Door aspect,
No, the
you know,
match, like you said, the match itself,
yeah,
I have no problem with. I mean, you're you have to get people the role with Dynamite and
yeah,
the role with Collision and then Rampage tomorrow night is that these fans gotta kind of know who the heck is on this card. Cause look, I'll be real with you. I watch a lot of wrestling. I don't know a lot of these guys to that extent. I've heard the names, maybe I've seen them wrestle a little bit, but that's me as a person who watches a good amount of wrestling. There's a lot of people that watch zero New Japan, watch zero CMLL, watch zero Stardom, and they're gonna see these guys and girls and not know who the heck they are. You got to get them familiar, get people up to speed, and I think that's the point of doing that. I'm just speaking off of the match itself and BCC. Lij is Lij, baby. They doing what they got to do.
yeah.
Collision.
I get it. I do get it. I get it. Let's talk quickly though about Next Level. Our good friends at Next Level. We got a thriving wrestling community over there. We've got all kinds of good stuff. If you like doing anything wrestling related, as far as consuming social media, media content, all of that, go to next nxconnect.me/Wrestling Republic to see all of our content across all platforms, linked all in one place. It's awesome. Tons of giveaways, all kinds of good stuff going on. But let's get into our next segment. Let's talk about Ray Phoenix and Jay White. I liked this Owen Hart Cup qualifier match, an interesting match to say the very least. Because dang it, I thought Ray Phoenix has been doing such great work that we'd finally get that, but nope. Fresh out of the Bang Bang Gang, it's Blade Runner and it's ball game. Jay White into the tournament. I get it. Whatever. Like, not, like he's great. But Phoenix, I thought, put in such a good amount of work on the West Coast swing. The Owen Hart Cup, in my eyes, should be about great wrestling. This is where what AEW does really well should happen. And I'm not saying Phoenix is a better wrestler than Jay White, but I'm kind of saying Phoenix is a better wrestler than Jay White. Neither here nor there, Anthony. I got to ask you about the match. Obviously, we can't be too disappointed with Jay White qualifying.
No, I mean, Jay White is one of those really special talents. I don't feel that we've truly seen the Switchblade in AEW. We've seen this watered down cartoon character version that AEW has done, which obviously we've covered before. It's not the pure Jay White from Japan. It's not. The fact that they walk around with 3 trios titles each, a total of 9 belts they're walking around with. I don't know why. Ray Phoenix is one of those. He is a truly special talent. Like, he could be this generation's Rey Mysterio, especially for AEW. Because if he's in WWE, I can almost guarantee they'd be selling Phoenix masks and really pumping up the connection with him and kids and stuff like. They could have made a gold mine with Ray Phoenix, marketable wise. Not only to mention his in-ring ability, but going into this, you're like, okay, they're probably going to job Phoenix out because I don't know if they just don't see anything in him or there's still backlash from the injury that took place when he fought Moxley. I don't know. I don't know if there's any bad blood over that, even though it was an accident. But Jay White with the Owen tournament, it makes sense if I don't know who they're going to have win this thing, but Jay White, if you're trying to rebuild him, if you're trying to get him closer to that Switchblade character that he was in Japan, having him do no nonsense and winning this, heel him against Swerve for the title could actually pay off. Like, if they really want to make him the real Switchblade, not the cartoon gimmicky ridiculous version that feuded with Max, but like the real Switchblade character, that I think is money. Swerve against Jay White, or if Ospreay somehow won Jay White and Ospreay, we know they have history in Japan. I think you could do a lot with this
Yeah.
if that's what the direction you're going with it.
I mean, I think the expectation to have Switchblade Jay White just seamlessly transition into AEW, I think was too high in the first place, though, too. Don't you? Like, I don't know, because it's really hard to bring somebody that's established to an entirely different market into a new one already in character. I gotta give AEW credit if to the points that you just made, if they're able to work him back to that character via this vehicle, then I'm willing to forgive some of the flaws along the way, because that is a difficult thing. Not everybody goes from, I mean, the irony to me about like, and I'm not trying to change the conversation, but like you talk about Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes was at his lowest point with the crowd in AEW.
Different audience, different type of audience.
You put him in WWE as the returning guy against Seth Rollins. Boom, it's different. That was not the same gimmick. It wasn't the same deal with Switchblade. So you had to build Switchblade back to being the Switchblade.
I agree with you on one hand. However, AEW's core audience is that mark audience that would follow the indies and follows New Japan. Their core audience follows both typically.
That's a broad assumption there, but either way, I gotta ask Shad about.
Yeah, go ahead. Next topic. Yeah.
Next topic. Let's talk about Mariah May, who you have been high on since the beginning, and I've got to give you full credit on this one.
My poor Mariah May just got knocked out, bro.
You want to talk about a blue chip recruit, though? How many times did you think this year it was possible that Mariah May could steal an entire cable network show just by being good at what she does? Yes, she took the glass to the head, and man, my condolences. Yeah. But I was already sold, and you sold me early. You saw it early.
On one of these shows. On one of these shows.
On one of these shows. You sold me early. Dude, that was the most electric performance. And Toni Storm, you know I've been on that absolute like promo tour about how great I think the Timeless gimmick is. She outshined her mentor last night. She was the star of this entire the match, the post-match, all of it. Yep. This was she put the stamp on, no, I got it. This was like the leveling up in a video game.
Right.
Legitimately. It was outstanding. And the irony is, it took her taking glass to the head to end the segment. To make it great. But I gotta toss it to you, Shad, because I can't say enough good things about Mariah May after last night.
Yeah, well, let's also give kudos and props to a person who opened the forbidden door, walked into AEW, and it feels like she's just chilling at home. Because everybody wants Mina. Mina Shirakawa is, if Tony Khan wants to, make a blueprint how to get people invested into a forbidden door match and create a storyline, this should be the manual for it, because this, without a doubt, when we're talking about a pay-per-view like Forbidden Door, that's entire, gimmick is AEW versus us, right? New Japan, Stardom, CMLL. This is the one. And Mina Shirakawa, like, she is a absolute superstar, bro. Like, she's a Joshi that is super talented in ring wise, but the character work, the swagger, the look, everything, the dancing, it is top notch. Like, she is such an incredible professional wrestler, and I'm familiar with her and Mariah May in Stardom when they were Club Venus. But, man, it's translated so well onto the AEW front. And I really, really hope we get to see her more on AEW. But, yeah, to your point, man, Mariah May, I said it a little while ago when they were making these signings. It's not always the marquee name you sign that's always the best signing. Like Mariah May arguably is the best free agent pickup for AEW this year because it was a low buy, right? It wasn't a marquee name, but the payoff is way more than you could definitely imagine you would get. She is the glue for why the AEW women's storyline is as compelling as it is. There's no Tony Storm without a Mariah May. I don't care what anybody says. Tony Storm is a great character. She's, you know, very gimmicky, out of the ordinary, but this brought a level of seriousness to it. That was always my complaint, was that the character is going to overshadow the storylines and the title matches. This brings it back to earth, and this is the perfect, love story, friendship story, whatever it may be. They have done an incredible job. And y'all laughed at me last Sunday when I said the recent booking of AEW Women's Division deserves to go to heaven. Look at this show on Sunday.
One
Got
person
this
did it.
match. You got Mercedes. You got Willow
Yep.
and Chris Statlander's tag team match. You got Mariah May and Saraya in the Owen match, all on Sunday. Like that's them having awareness and realizing that they got a strong group of women. You book them, especially when you tied to Stardom too. Like this was what they needed to do, and I'm very happy about it. I loved
Yep.
everything about last night, and yeah, the bottle to the head. I really praying for you, Mariah May. Be good for Sunday.
I mean, absolutely. It's one of those situations where it's like the they stole the show. There's no denying that. It was
Yeah,
the
it
most
was.
entertaining spot on last night's show. If you think about it, and not only that, it was Mariah, Mina, and Tony. To have them on the same side, on the same team, provided the most entertainment.
Hey, you know what the beauty of it is though? It's so when you go into these can they coexist matches, there's gonna be some, foolishness that's gonna happen in the match. They wrestled the match, no problem, and they won the match. It's
Yes.
what happened after. It's the catalyst, the glue, Mariah May. People getting jealous about. I want her to be with me, bro. The fact that she walked out for both entrances for these girls last night,
You saw it
like,
advance before anybody else shot. I got to give you full credit on that.
yeah,
You
man.
scouting 101 right there. That's straight out of Moneyball. I mean, you're spot on. You knew before everyone else knew, and that's a big deal. Let's move on to our next segment though. This one I talked about yesterday. I said somebody's going home with a limb, and somebody did go home with a limb. Fujiwara armbar, Zack Sabre Jr. Ooh, ooh. That is not a fun one to be in. Two sublime,
Watch out,
sublime
orange
grapplers.
buttocks. Orange
This is
buttocks. Watch
more
out.
up my alley. I'm like, I want to see this with Mike Musumeci as special guest referee in a blood sport setting, as much as I want to see anything, because these two could grapple for ages. Talking Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belt versus catch wrestling, two of the best submission grappling disciplines in the world, probably the two best. ZSJ, Zack Sabre Jr. picks up the victory, but I liked this a lot. Anthony, got to get your thoughts on it. I know in the past you've not been the biggest Zack Sabre Jr. fan. Did he impress you last night?
I don't get the hype with Zack Sabre Jr. I think visually it's not believable when he's in there with bigger guys. Last night, obviously, he was not in there with a bigger guy. He's in there with Kyle O'Reilly, who I really like. I would prefer Kyle O'Reilly over Zack Sabre. I think there's more talent there. But I knew going in. Anybody knew going in. Okay, well, Kyle really has no story going on. Zach has a match against Orange Cassidy on Sunday, so Zach's probably winning, and he did convincingly. The tap out, fine. Just like as a whole, though, I don't get the appeal of Zack Sabre Jr. I don't get interested in his matches, and I'm not saying he has bad matches. It's rare for me to really get invested. I know he had a great series on the Indies with Chris Hero; those I enjoyed, but depending on who he's in the ring with, really depends on how much I enjoy his matches. It's more his dance partner than him in this instance.
Really? That's
Yes,
interesting because I would say this.
I don't agree with you on that.
that's fine.
I strongly disagree on that one.
That's you guys have been doing all day. It's
Yeah,
fine.
we've got Coach 23 with ZSJ is one, if not the most believable technical wrestler in wrestling today. And I think that's what's interesting is the catch wrestling style. It can get a little old, but the guy's got he's Dean Malenko.
He's a technician. He
Mhm.
it's
I don't like I don't like that he's like a little bit of a pompous British guy, but
Mhm.
like
that's what I like about him.
but he's a technician.
I like his character a lot. I love the cockiness and all of it, bro.
He's a
Calling
little like if Ian Gary was a
orange
grappler.
bullocks. I love it. That he is my favorite. He is my favorite Forbidden Door like dude coming out, bro. Like I like him a lot.
I like the small joint manipulation stuff too, especially like I think the fact that he can finish you multiple ways, like he's gonna
Mhm.
get an arm or he's gonna get a leg. I like
Yeah.
that. I wish that this is my only stone left unturned from last night. So yeah, Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, which has similar submissions as far as in competition to catch wrestling, right?
Mhm.
KOR is a Brazilian Jiu Jitsu black belt. And
Yeah.
then you have Saber, who's a traditional British catch wrestling artist.
Right.
Brazilian Jiu Jitsu might lean closer to chokes. You know, don't get in the comments and be like, BJJ has arm locks too. I know, trust me. But like it's more choke. I wish they could have told the story better about KOR going for the neck
For sure.
and Saber trying to isolate a limb. The juxtaposition between the two disciplines, because I mean that's right, hundreds of years of history when it
Mhm.
comes to two disciplines, and you don't get matchups like that often. I think that was the one thing they could have leaned into better last night, as far as the booking is. But at the end of the day, KOR is a stud. I would love to see him maybe actually, instead of losing the way he did, lock in a triangle choke and get reversed or
Yeah.
something.
I
Have a
want to see him win some more too. I think he's
yeah,
another guy who's like and I agree with Anthony's point. He's a guy who's very talented, and I feel like he's kind of one of those people that are in that Claudio Island where they're just kind of in the mix. And it's not just AEW. There's a lot of other promotions that do it too. I'm not singling out AEW. Like there's an
yes,
island full of guys in WWE as well. I'm sure TNA, NXT that are hanging out on this island that are really good. They just can't find the footing and just take losses every week. So
100%. Let's get into our final segment before throwback, though. Let's talk about it. Man, this is really, I was on a high after the last one, but I never thought I'd have to say this on air, guys, especially not in 2024, not in June. Can they coexist? We have Can They Coexist Ospreay and Swerve versus the Gates of Agony. A hidden blade. He hit him with the hidden blade. That was cool. They wrestled, but why? Were they just hoping that people would Google like Tongaloa and Toa Leona would come up and they'd accidentally find this match? Was that the goal? I don't understand. What can they coexist? Well, yeah, whatever. Post match, you get the call out and then nice little run down, finish the show. I was like, oh, what a whiff. What a whiff. Like we had it and then we didn't. I didn't mind the matchup. I'm not even trying to be that big of like a hater on House of Agony, but like, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? Anthony,
yeah,
can you explain?
All right, listen. Honestly, Osprey and Swerve as a tag team, I really enjoyed. Like, if they wanted to go that direction with them, let's take the title picture out of it. But somewhere down the road, if they wanted to make them a tag team, I think they could do really well. Going into this, like you said, Clark, this was a Osprey and Swerve against two jobbers from the Ring of Honor paywall. You knew that going in. To me, like I said, Osprey and Swerve I thought were great as a team, but the post match To me, that was the one bright spot of this, in the sense where Ospreay tried to be cheeky like he was the last time and swipe Swerve's belt. This time, Swerve wasn't having it and took him out, which is that's the Swerve you need. You need the Swerve that will smash a cinder block on you. That was the Swerve that people got behind. It's the non dance and there's take no shit Swerve. That's what people want. That's what sells a match. Swerve and Ospreay turning personal. That's money. That's on a card that's going to struggle with pay-per-view buys because it's full of either talent that nobody knows who it is or thrown together matches just to fill a card. And most of the card is filler. And they're going to have a hard time selling this thing. I always go back to what Paul Heyman said. Paul Heyman has said, there's 3 questions you got to answer when you book a story. You need to answer, who are these people? Why are they fighting? And why should the audience care to buy a ticket or to buy the pay-per-view to see this match? Those are the things you need to answer. For most of this pay-per-view card, I don't think any of those are answered. This, though, Ospreay versus Swerve, it's got a dream match, and now it has a little bit of heat, but it should have been hotter than what it is.
Definitely. I hear you on that. I mean, I will say I like the Paul Heyman reference, although at the same time, Heyman, while creatively inclined, maybe not the best guy as far as like selling stuff. That didn't work.
Hey, listen, he was able to sell a product and have talent show up and not pay them.
His product is more popular since it's defunct than it was when it was active. I will say that. You can definitively say that about Paul Heyman, which is neither here nor there. But I mean, it's a bigger deal now than it was then, right? Or they'd still be around. I will say it is, yeah. I am excited. The match I'm most excited about on the card, and I liked what you said about there are a lot of filler matches. But the match I'm most excited about on the card is still Ospreay and Swerve, which
absolutely.
Is
that's
ironic as much as we've complained about Swerve's reign.
As it should be.
Do you feel the same on that shot? And then your opinion on the end of last night's show?
No, I think a lot of the storyline between Swerve and Ospreay has been kind of fixed these last few weeks. The match itself was solid. I think Swerve was phenomenal last night. Like the Swerve stomp that he hit from the outside. Just everything was clicking. Both guys, I don't like the can they coexist. I don't like it because there was 2 of them last night also, which is kind of whatever. And there was a lot of multi-people matches last night as well. But match was fine. Not too many complaints. I'm hoping Swerve can just be done with everything, embassy related or Gates of Agony, like his old faction mates. Like, let's just nip that in the bud. He doesn't need to. He already beat the other guys too. Let's just not worry about that. But yeah, the post-match segment, I thought that is what we needed from Swerve. And I know the question asked was, salute to boss man Ben Allison. Is it a fear that Swerve is gonna lose on Sunday? I feel like these last 2 weeks have just confirmed that Swerve is gonna win. Like I don't see him losing to Ospreay, not just yet. Because a couple things have happened. One, last week we gotta remember there was a telling thing that happened, and that was Ospreay. Like I said, he's this hyper kid that's just ready to, jump into a wall and do everything that he can in AEW, and biting the hand that quote unquote fed him with the Callis family. They weren't here last night, but we can't forget that. And also, Swerve is getting back in a heel bag. He was doing heel tendencies at the end of the show last night. He was doing heel tendencies looking at the camera. He's got that by any means necessary mindset going into this match. And I think with those 2 factors, he's going to retain. And I think this is going to be the wedge that maybe gets him back to being a heel, because they might have an influx of too many baby faces. But this is also what is the best as Swerve is a character. And I think that's what we need. That adds the shelf life as a champion. it's just it's something with wrestling also. Like it's not only just AEW, it's WWE too. Like babyface champions just don't know how to get booked. Maybe we're in a maybe we're in the day and age that the bad guys are cool. People like the heels better, but
We're
I,
back.
I feel like it's better for Swerve to get back into his heel bag, and I think he's gonna beat Ospreay on Sunday. I'm convinced that he's gonna beat Ospreay on Sunday, and I would love to see Ospreay kind of fall down the hill and lose a lot.
I like heels. I always have been a heel fan for a long time, so I don't mind that at all, Shad. Not in the least.
Coach 23, it didn't make the
Yes,
lineup this week, by the
it did
way.
not. Yeah. Wait.
Okay.
You really skipped the learning tree, or am I late?
Absolutely.
So I will say this: Brian Keith is really funny in this. Brian Keith, I didn't, and same with Big Bill.
No, not Big Bill.
Honestly, Big Bill cracks me up too.
No.
Like he's had a couple gems. And then like
Uh,
that's the thing for me is the way I look at it is I'm like, I gotta give, and I hate to do this, but I gotta give Chris Jericho a little credit. He like read the internet and was like, oh, that's what you think of me? I'm
Bet.
gonna give you that.
And they
And
hate
that
him more.
makes me laugh so hard.
Let's go.
It's so like a because if you can pay it off, if and it makes you
You're not going to be able to pay it off.
rethink. I mean, that's I don't know. I think that one.
I will
It's
say
starting to get to the point.
Minoru Suzuki just saying, "Oh, you thought I was gonna team with you?
Yeah,
Nah,
no,
we fighting, buddy. I'll
yeah.
see you
Let's
Sunday."
fight. It's a fight. It's
You
a
saw
fight.
Jericho's little fake gimmicky just kind of crumble for a second. He's like, "Wait, what?"
Yeah, it's like, what in the
Uh,
world is going on? I mean, it's definitely better than where we were at with Chris Jericho before. Is the irony?
he should like
It's
his next
true.
character should be selling people like life insurance
No, it's honestly it's like
or
the
like a
fake
pyramid squid.
the waving. It's like a fake politician. It's hilarious.
Yeah, well, you know who his
Disagree.
wife is a fan of, so.
Yeah.
There you go.
Anyways,
He's got creative inspiration. Well played.
next good throwback.
Let's talk about throwback. It is Throwback Thursday. We've got The Undertaker, and we've got Mankind, and we've got Hell in the Cell. This was a human demolition derby, in the words of the great Jim Ross. Basically just a multi-person car accident. Pile up on the 5 freeway like I experienced this morning. Yeah, no, it was violent to say the very,
Crazy.
very least. Anthony, you're our resident historian. Break it down for us.
Yeah, well, unlike what you saw today, no one was pantsed. In June of 98, The Undertaker and Mankind, who've had an on-again, off-again feud since Mankind's debut, they battled in Boiler Room Brawls and Buried Alive. They were going to battle in the second ever Hell in a Cell match. There was only one prior. That was Undertaker and Shawn Michaels. Mick Foley knew he couldn't wrestle the match that Shawn Michaels wrestled with Undertaker. So he was talking to Terry Funk and going, what do you think I should do? And Terry said to him, he goes, you should start on top. So Foley tried to convince The Undertaker to start the match on top of the Hell in a Cell. And Taker's like, I'm not doing that. I'm not bringing my ass up on top of that cell. He finally convinced them to bring him up there. And Mick did the thing that his entire career is synonymous for. That match defined his career. It made his career, and it's the curse that it's the one match everyone brings up, and maybe one of the most iconic matches of all time. So Undertaker throws Mick Foley off the Hell in a Cell through an announce table. They've replayed it a half a dozen times. It looked like the match was over. The visual that I vehemently remember, other than Foley getting thrown off, was when they raised the Hell in a Cell. Because at this point, the cell was snapping a little bit because it was tied with zip ties, which is insane. You have 200-300-pound guys on top of the Hell in a Cell, and you're holding it together with zip ties. Um, but as they were raising it to the ceiling, Jim Ross said, "That's the conscience of the WWF right there," referring to the Undertaker. So they got the stretcher out and they lowered the cell. Mick Foley gets up off the stretcher and wants to go back at it. People are trying to hold him back. I don't know if that was legitimately trying to hold him back or not. I don't think I ever really got a full answer on that. But anyway, Mick climbs back up there, fights the Undertaker some more. That's when things don't go to plan. Undertaker chokeslams Mick Foley, and he goes through the Hell in a Cell. Hits the mat, a chair hits him in the face. It's iconically pictured that his tooth was through his nose, which there is a figure of it with the tooth. And, Foley was knocked out. Remembers pretty much none of this match. And it is absolutely brutal. A brutal match. Mick brings out the thumbtacks, which what is never done as far as I can never done in WWF, and I don't think it was done in the States. Now it's commonplace. Somebody brings out a velvet bag, there's tacks in it. After the match, after the brutal match, Mick's in the back going, "Hey, did I use the tacks?" Meanwhile, they're all stuck in his back. Like, he remembers none of this. The one last thing I do want to a couple things, last things I want to point out. One was when Taker hit him with the tombstone. Mick, even though he was unconscious, did this little kick out thing. Like, it was the last fight in him. It wasn't enough to kick out, but it was enough that he still had some fight in him. Mick would come out later that night to get involved in the main event. He remembers none of this. This is the match that really defined his career, because if you think about it, a few months later, he then wins the WWF Championship, a title that he was never in line for. Vince hired him after Jim Ross begged him to hire him. Vince didn't see anything really major in Mick Foley. The sacrifices he made in that Hell in a Cell is what propelled him to his feud with The Rock, and eventually the WWF Championship on multiple occasions, and really cemented his legacy in this business and also shortened his career. So it was he sacrificed, but he got to a higher plateau than he probably would have gotten otherwise.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, this is one of those moments where it's like the call. I mean, by God, he's broke, right? Like, they killed him.
That's it. He's broken in half.
Yeah. They killed him.
Oh my God,
he's dead.
Jenny.
That's it. He's dead. Yeah, that was the line.
It's unbelievable. And then the cell, Coach 23 in the comments here with the chokeslam through the cell was brutal. Yes. You have the tooth in the nose.
Yes.
Famously unbelievable. And then you got, he said Mick was in really great shape in terms of cardio and resiliency in that match. Yeah, it's actually wild to think that at maybe upwards of 300 pounds at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Because he goes back out for the run-in after the first blood match.
Taker had a broken ankle going into that match.
It's not even the main event. Shad, I got to get your memories of that one. Such an iconic Hell in a Cell. If you can call it a match, I guess there was a pinfall.
Yeah, I mean, look, that, like, it's just, it's Mick Foley for you, man. The guy has I know a lot of people nowadays give a lot of love to like a person like a Darby Allin and whatnot, but like Mick really, really loved this ish, and he wanted to entertain the fans by any possible way he can. He put his body through the ringer, and man, that spot is just so crazy, bro. Like, it's one of the more like scary things, and when you watch as a kid, it's one of those moments where you don't even you sometimes forget that, yeah, that's actually crazy high and super dangerous, and a lot of people in a lot of cases could probably get severely injured, or some people may even lose a life if you take the wrong fall, or however it may be. But it's one of those wild moments, and somebody in the comments on Instagram, I am Polo, saying, that's the moment that is like the career defining moment for him. Like, that's something that made his who he is, and a lot of people remember him for that. And it is, yeah, one of the most iconic Hell in a Cell matches. Um, and it's crazy to think, man, like that. You still see that moment replayed a lot, just on like reels and memes and stuff like that. And Mick a crazy guy, man.
No, it's one of those things you sit back and you think about it, and you're like, what if he's a foot long on the dive off the cell in the first place, and he hits the
And it
railing?
went way worse than it did.
Right? Like, what if he lands on one of the commentators?
Well,
What? Here's another one too. What if the lip of that chair lands in a different spot? Yes, it messed up his teeth,
mhm.
but I mean, it's like
Yeah.
it's. I mean, there are
God had his back.
Hollywood stuntmen that have
Mhm.
had less illustrious careers than Mick did in that match,
Yeah.
than Mankind did in that match.
The funny part is, like you're talking about, when he got thrown off with the announcers, I don't know if they knew he was coming. Like that could have killed either one of those guys if they didn't know that
Yes.
was coming. And it's
Yeah.
never really talked about. Like I don't ever
Well, I mean, if
remember hearing Foley
You look
say,
at it, he's
"Hey, I used
he's
them in."
out. He's absolutely. There is no sport, or there's no chance of him continuing after that initial fall. What we know now about concussions,
Oh,
because
correct.
he's
Yeah.
ice out cold under
Mhm.
the railing where he
Mhm.
ends up after the
Yeah.
impact of
Yeah,
the collision.
they stopping that match.
No, that's well
Like,
stopped. Yeah, there's
yeah.
no way. No,
Well,
we'll
they
never
wouldn't.
see
No, I
that
don't.
again.
Towns, you won't. It's hard to believe that you would even see stuff like that
And
occur.
you
And
think
remember
about the
Terry.
size of Mick Foley.
He
Yeah.
a big guy.
Remember Terry Funk, bought time.
Yeah,
When he went through the cell through the chokeslam,
he did.
Terry Funk bought some time with Undertaker, and he literally chokeslammed Terry out of his shoes.
Yes.
And like during the match, Mick says he remembers one of the only things he remembers is going, "Are those my shoes?" Like he didn't remember like Terry being in there or any of that.
And that's like one of the best lines Undertaker has talking about that match.
Mhm.
He said when Mick went through the top of the cell
Mhm.
and he's looking down, he's like, I think it's the only time in my wrestling career I was ever truly like terrified.
Yes.
Because he was like, I don't know what I did I just kill him?
Yeah, he asked Terry Funk. Terry Funk's the one going, "I think he's alive." Like I think that was the exchange. He's
Yeah,
like, "No, I
he
think
can
he's alive."
speak.
Yeah.
I mean, it's such a crazy moment. It's oh yeah, here we go. Coach 23 said in Mick's book, he said that Hugo Zavinovich tried catching Mick's leg to help him at least cushion his fall. That's amazing.
Wow.
That is really interesting. I mean, it's such a crazy moment in time because we've heard a lot of what Mick and Taker have had to say about it since. And like one of the most telling ones is him saying like, well, there was no way I thought we could live up to the bad blood Hell in a Cell with Michaels.
Yes.
So I knew we had to do something crazy. That mindset, that time, it's a moment in time. We'll never see it again. It's a moment that lasts forever.
Selfless, man.
If there was one match that defined the Attitude Era, it's that match.
Yeah.
Totally.
That's the one match that defines that entire era.
It's not even the main event. Think about
Correct.
how that would be affected by the review system. We'll figure that out later
The main
on a
event.
different episode. Thank you everybody though that tuned in this Thursday. It's been an absolute blast on behalf of me, Clark Taylor, Shad, Anthony, all of us at WR. We will be back all weekend with coverage because we've got Forbidden Door coming up. We've got all kinds of good stuff coming up. We've got the new show that Ben just announced, Wrestling Republic News. It's going to be awesome.
News.
Stay tuned. Usual time, usual place. Tomorrow, that's going to be noon. That's going to be 4 a.m. in Manila. Shout out Coach 23. Thank you for always being in the comments. 9 in Hawaii. That's 3 in the East. That's 8 in the UK. And then, Saturday, same. Sunday, though, we're going to have multiple things going on. So you're going to want to stay tuned for that. Everyone have an awesome Thursday night, throwback Thursday night. Can I say that? Yeah. Throwback Thursday night. Throw a few back. Wait, can I say that? Never mind. Have a good one.
Oh.